Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Magic Wand webinar, which is brought to you by Technology Concepts Group International and our partner, Kanban NPS. I am your host, Lyria Charles, and we'll be starting the presentation shortly. First, I'd like to give you a few housekeeping items before I introduce our panel. All of our attendees are on mute, and that's just so that we can keep the background noise to a minimum. However, you are welcome to interact with us through your chat box. Depending whether you're on a Mac or iPad or a PC, your chat box may be at the top, bottom, or side of your screen. But if you just hover your mouse over the presentation area, you should see the chat window button come visible, and you can click on there. And please feel free to ask a question or make a comment in the chat box, and we will interact with you that way. But I think that's all in terms of the housekeeping. If you have a question, again, about how to use the tools or something, just use the chat box and I will respond to you personally. So with that, let's get started. I think we're all here and we're all ready. So with us today, our panel comprises Avis Yates Rivers. Avis is CEO of Technology Concepts Group International, and Avis brings more than 40 years of sales and marketing IT experience with her background. She has headed up numerous companies in the past, all related to IT, with the focus on helping companies manage their expense over their assets. And she has enabled many global Fortune 500 companies increase their value spend and achieve better return on their investment through their strategic spend. Also, we have two partners coming from Kanban NPS. Let me introduce Tejas Mistry. Tejas has over 20 years of experience in software development, website development, and application development. He has developed and deployed many print management systems and analytics solutions, and I'm sure he'll be mentioning some of that during the presentation today for many companies across numerous industries. And finally, we have Philip Matthews, also from Kanban NPS. Philip, again, has quite a rich history of experience in the desktop printing and photocopy industry. Philip has worked with companies like Konica Minolta, Samsung, and others, and he's well-versed in this whole world of transactional devices and managed print services. So with Avis, Tejas, and Phillips, we are in good hands this morning to talk to us about a very compelling idea, I think, for our audience, that you'll be able to take these ideas, implement them within your managed print service business for your clients. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Avis, who will take it from here. Avis, welcome.
Well, thank you, Lyria. I was wondering if you said I had over 50 years experience or 20 years experience, but I'm going to just take the latter.
I hope I said 20.
I hope so, too. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you all with us today. I want to share with you our webinar objectives. You know, we don't want to just take up your time and not have you walk away with something very usable and applicable. So the first thing we want to do is really understand and agree and explain and delve a little deeper into what are the typical pain points or challenges that this industry faces on a daily basis. What are the kinds of challenges you're facing? And then we want to talk about what the industry practices are, have been, and perhaps ways that they can change in the future. We want to share with you a new way of managing your printer fleets or your customers' ink and software requirements, and then introduce to you, give you a little bird's eye view of the industry's first tool that automates that sales of devices as well as printer, ink, and toner. And so that's what we want to accomplish today. We do want it to be interactive. We will ask you questions throughout the day. And at any time, as Lyria has said, please go ahead and raise your hand or type something in the chat box. So let's talk about the pain. It's something that our customers experience on an ongoing basis. And as we are managing those devices and consumables for them, that pain becomes our pain. And then just the way that this industry has historically performed or practiced this business has been also somewhat challenging. So first thing we want to talk about is the fact that machines have mechanical difficulties from time to time that you may or may not become aware of unless you're physically there. That impacts their maintenance agreements, it impacts the usage of them, and it also impacts the consumption of ink and toner. So these machine problems happen on a daily basis, and we're not just talking about paper jams. All kinds of mechanical and machine problems happen that you may not be aware of. So that's one pain point. Another one is, when do you really need to or want to call your customer to see how their ink is? What levels of stock do they have? Is it time to place a new order? And then they may be calling you all the time as well. Well, all this calling back and forth we find to be totally inefficient and a time waster. And then if you are just reacting to some of those calls and a customer says, well, I need this cartridge right away because I've got a big print job coming up on Friday. And so you'll deliver that one cartridge. Well, we know that delivering onesies of anything can really drive shipping costs up. And what we want to focus on today are ways to improve efficiency and drive costs down. Drive costs down in how you manage your business, and then share that cost, if you will, with your customers. And talking about being reactionary, when a toner light comes on that the toner is low, it's already late. It's already too late, which means that maybe perhaps rush shipping is involved, again, adding to the normal course and cost of doing business. And so it's already too late if you're waiting for the toner low light to come on. And then here's something. When the customer has a printer refresh or a copier refresh and their 3-year lease is up or their 5-year lease is up, not sure they're always going to let you know about that, right? And so oftentimes we know that leases become expired, and those devices that you have been maintaining or providing consumables for are no longer in existence. And how do you know that except after the fact? Well, it's important for you to know that before the fact. And then if you're competing on price, then you stand a chance of competition coming in to underbid you at any time. Because as we know, as business owners and managers today, that customers like to pay based on price as opposed to best value. Well, we want to show you later on how to get out of just competing on price. So it lessens the opportunity for your competition to come in there. So lots of pain points, lots of challenges. Everyone is looking for help today. And sometimes that hand sticking up out of the pile of paper might be yours. It might be mine on any given day. And so we're here to help. TCGi is a problem-solving organization. And what we want to do now is just stop for a minute, pause, get your pulse, and help us understand if you can pick the 3 most prevalent and pressing pain points of the ones that we've just chatted about, what would those top 3 be? So Lyria, if you can start that poll for us.
Sure, the poll is up. So please identify the 3 things that keep you up at night when it comes to managed print services for your customers. Okay, well, it looks like, Avis, the tied for first place are the issues of not having that visibility into your customers' printer fleets, so that whole visibility issue. And the second one tied at that level is also the pressure that we get from the competition. And then the third runner-up is that reactive rush to order ink, that run to Best Buy that people do, or to Office Depot, when they could be buying in a more strategic way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's totally understandable. Thank you, Lyria. All right. Well, you know what? Just because that's the way business has been running all these years does not mean that that's what we have to continue to do. It's all about continuous improvement and doing better when we learn better. So now there is a new gold standard of printer sales and automating the business of selling devices as well as selling consumables like toner and ink. And we're going to introduce that new gold standard to you today and allow you to distinguish yourself from all of the lookalikes out there in the marketplace and soar high above your competition. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tejas Mistry, our founder of Kanban, and to help us understand how to turn all that pain, Tejas, into profit.
Thank you, Avis. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. So we're all here to ask how we can combat some of these pain points that Avis, as well as yourselves, have highlighted. Hopefully, what Phil and I can share with you can go some way in eliminating these pain points for you. Towards this, we're going to focus on how, in this ultra-competitive world of Google, where choices are plenty, the pressures of price diluting your offers and your value, is just the worst thing that we as business people can imagine selling commodities. So towards all of these things, we're going to look at how we can never lose a customer. In fact, have greater stickability for greater retention. And if that aspect of your business is secure and safe, then it's fair to say that we can focus our resources gaining new business. And hopefully, we can also show you that we're not going to apply traditional price-sensitive conversations today towards getting these new customers. But instead, we're going to do so by gaining and sharing valuable information with these customers. We're going to do this by making you trusted advisors in your world, which will ultimately drive loyalty, greater efficiency, which will reduce the costs of doing business and help us, of course, increase profit, which is obviously the big thing. So increasing your sale, this is what we all want to be doing. Of course, increasing your sale, typically to do so, we have to increase, if you will, our headcount. It's pretty linear. You want to double the size of your sales, you possibly have to double the size of your sales team, right? This is a known fact. But today we're going to focus on exactly where you're able to increase your sales through greater visibility and intelligent, actionable data. We're going to look at how technology can help us know what your customers need even before they do, which should ultimately result in bigger orders without having to increase the number of people that you have on your team. I think we've already said this. In the poll, I think a lot of us said how it would be so good to look at, if you will, what the print freak looks like at your customer's end. Selling printers and selling ink has traditionally been incredibly reactive. Even with modern printers, the entire supply chain reacts to a printer saying low toner alert. If it's a high usage machine, you may increase that threshold, but it would be reactive nonetheless, because you don't have any data on how much and how much printing is being done and how frequently. Similarly, not until a printer is actually reported as faulty by a customer can anything be done about the printer. By then, it may be too late, guys. You may have missed a sales opportunity for the ink order, or even a greater opportunity to sell a large format device. Or even worse yet, your competition may have called in at just the right time and stolen that business from you. What if you were able to play Big Brother with your customers' print fleet? What if you're able to see exactly what your customer's entire print fleet looks like? Again, one of the points that came up in the poll. And what if the data delivered to you allowed you to sell both ink and hardware proactively? In fact, with the analytics, not only could you spot the sales opportunity proactively, but also the troubled devices, allowing you to make informed sales pitches, helping your customers avoid any business disruption. We live in a world of telemarketeers and telesales. These phone calls, are the bane of our lives, whether we're a customer receiving them or whether we're a sales team trying to make a sale. Customers aren't big fans of this at all. Rejection in this is massively common and soul destroying for your sales team. Proactive data means knowing what your customer needs before they do, which also means calling them only when there's an actual requirement in their business. Wouldn't it be better for our sales team to start their conversation with their customer with something like, "Sir, we already know exactly what your requirements are. We already know you need 12 cartridges over the next couple of weeks. Should I send you a list of your requirements that you already need so that you can just confirm the order?" Wouldn't that be much easier? Imagine having that kind of forecasted data almost 12 weeks in advance. That would mean that you would be able to sell your customers entire consolidated requirements just when they need it. This process of automated sales means you can start actively forecasting your own sales opportunities. This also means that you can stop calling your existing customers unnecessarily and instead spend those valuable, expensive man hours trying to bring new customers on board. And imagine if you had this data of your customers' needs across your entire business. And imagine with the understanding of what all your customers need up to weeks in advance, that means you can start negotiating better, higher up the supply chain with your suppliers and getting better pricing on what you're buying. Therefore, again, increasing your profitability. Yes, reducing your delivery costs. If only we were all Amazon, right? Of course we're not, and therefore cost is a massive thing in this. Consolidated orders means reduced delivery costs for you and your customers, not to mention the cost of packaging to your business in terms of time and material and resources that your company may have to use. Of course, reducing delivery also means you are now a greener company. There are buyers out there looking for greener companies, looking for that, if you will, message out there. That could, again, open up a whole new vertical of buyers for you. Spotting trouble of your printers before your customers. What else would you do if you're playing printer Big Brother? The ability to see devices that are failing your customers help you? I think we've said that in the poll, didn't we? Analytics will allow you to speak to your customers and explain exactly where their devices are failing at. Therefore, allowing you to help your customers make smarter decisions proactively, ensuring that their business is not affected. Sharing data and your knowledge openly not only will generate sales opportunities, but also make you a true, dare I say, managed print service provider. Expertise. We all want to be expert. We all want to have expertise, but it's not always possible, especially if you're a small, medium-sized business. Bringing on expertise can be an incredibly costly affair. Expertise comes with knowledge. Acquiring or hiring the knowledge can be really, really expensive, as we've already spoken about. A true managed print service provider should be able to continually assess their customers' requirements and be able to advise based on customer needs today as well as in the future. Unfortunately, the cost of collecting and analyzing this data in real time can be incredibly costly. How can we collect that data? How can we deliver expert advice unless we have intelligent data, unless we have experts who can analyze, go through rows and rows of, if you will, data, and will we be able to deliver this, if you will, actionable data just in time for you? Hopefully we can show you a way to be able to do so without taking on incredibly expensive experts. Share data to gain your customers' trust. Deliver data to them that makes sense to them. Today we live in the world of data. Google, analytics, we hear this all the time. These are words that we're all familiar with. Do they even exist in the printer world? Well, we're here to tell you that they do. And the world of MPS hasn't always used them to the benefit of their customers. But again, we're here to share that it's possible. Wouldn't it be great to show your customers data that says, it tells them exactly what devices are failing them, whether they have too many devices for the environment they're in, whether they have too big a devices for too small a team or vice versa, which of the devices are costlier than they should be. You know, this is all incredibly helpful data that you can share with your customer. This is just some of the information you can share with the customer, right? But with all of the stuff that we can show you today, you're going to be your customer's trusted advisor. I mentioned Google earlier. Google's changed the way we do business. If we are supposed to survive in this world, it's a price-sensitive world. We have to be cognizant of that. How do we beat that? How do we add value? And the people searching on Google, unfortunately, it's almost impossible to show them value, show them your ability as a service provider. It's a really tough world out there. A trusted advisor means you don't have to sell on price. In the UK, there's a mantra that is used by certain types of resellers. The margin is in the mystery. Analytics will now give you the opportunity to sell based on intelligent data and not just price. And that too through real transparency and not some mysterious way of doing business. So all of this is about stickability, analytics, embedding yourself, getting into your customers and staying there, right? We've spoken about the value of being big brother in the print world, the ability to see your customer's entire fleet, to be able to proactively help your customers drive efficiency where you're able not just to replenish their ink even before they know it's gonna, if you will, finish, but also be able to spot those troubled machines in their world. Of course, all of this also means that you're gonna lock your competition out. Your competition who are just there for you to miss an opportunity. They'll be, you know, in there in a flash calling your customers, trying to sell them this thing. Well, guess what? With this valuable data, you won't be locked out at all, and you will be completely embedded and irreplaceable. So what does all this in the end mean? For us, transparency through analytics plus efficiency through proactive actions equals great loyalty and opportunities, which we hope also translates into greater recurring revenue as well as greater profits for you.
Yeah, thank you, Tejas. I appreciate your helping us understand what our business goals can be and how we turn that pain and those challenges into profit. Now we want to hear from our attendees and ask them to pull their magic wand out yet again and identify those 3 important goals that they want for their businesses. So the poll has appeared. Please choose 3 goals that you would like for to implement in your business, whether it's 100% customer retention or increasing your profits or finding new business. It's what is most important to you. And sometimes it's hard to make a choice of one of these over the other. I want them all. How about that?
All right.
Do you have them now?
Yeah.
Do you have a magic wand for all of them?
Well, it looks like the number 1 wish is increasing profits, increasing that return on investment. And Playing at second place is being able to retain 100% of your customers all the time and finding new business, new opportunities within your current customer base.
Awesome. Well, those are three wonderful objectives to have for any business owner or manager. And that's what's driving us in today's session as well. We want to accomplish that for our business, and we want to help other businesses to accomplish that as well. So thanks for participating in our poll, everyone. Now I'd like to turn it over to Philip Matthews, who is the co-founder of Kanban, and ask him to give us a little bird's eye view, or what we call an inside look, into the industry's first printer sales automation tool. Philip, turning it over to you now.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Phil Matthews in London. I'm one of the founders of Kanban MPS. So a couple of things that I wanted to mention, statistics that we see, using the system over a few years now, is that the size of the average order using this system increases from around about 4 toners per sale to in excess of 20, and at least a 40% increase in retention, an 18% better margin on the sales, and around about an 80% fewer transactions. So I just want to refer to the screens now and just explain how those things are achieved. So you see in the first widget, the 4-week forecast. In this window, we're just showing your live opportunities to sell to your customer right now. You may have hundreds or thousands of devices in the machines in the system. You may have many, many customers, but what we want to pull out of all of that data that we're gathering is where is your immediate sales opportunity right now? And you see with the 3 customers in the screen here, Wedge Galvanizing, LSA Technology and Performing Arts, St. Peter's and St. Paul's Catholic College. You see in the first instance, Wedge Galvanizing, that over the next 4 weeks, we know that that customer is going to change 14 consumables in their fleet. And the little 7 beside that indicates that of those 14 consumables, 7 are going to be needed to be changed within the next 7 days. So there's an immediate call to action here to go back to the customer and tell them what's in the forecast and do a deal on the whole 14. Whereas, as I mentioned previously, when people are just calling in and seeing what people need today, they'll typically sell up to about 4 consumables. And this really gives us the opportunity to lock out our competitors, because once these customers have bought the supplies they need for the next month or more, they're going to turn away every other person that calls in hoping to find a machine that's running low and some kind of urgent situation that that gets them the customer and pulls them away from yourselves. So we really see this as a very, very effective tool of getting in there, locking out the competition, securing the size of the whole order, and of course it's all dealt within a single invoice, cutting down your invoicing and admin costs. To the right of there, you see the DCA notifications. Now, there's many DCAs out there, and people often ask us, why this is different. And of course, we're collecting much the same data as everybody else, but it's really the trending and the analysis and the presentation of that data that enables us to turn this into a sales system, as opposed to some static offline system that's just collecting meter readings and that kind of thing. So the first customer you see on the list here, Royal Welsh, they've been using the system since 2012, and they've been buying from the reseller that introduced the system to them continually since 2012, without ever going out to copy a contract or something of that nature. But the point of this window is just to reassure you that the DCAs are online, and in some cases you see the bottom one that the contract has expired a long time ago in this case, because the partner actually sold them a kind of full MPS system. Now, if you look down from there, this is one of the key elements that we highlight with the use of this system. In addition to being able to sell your customer the supplies more efficiently with greater profits and less admin, we really want to make your sales guys more more informed about the customer's needs than simply just being able to have a conversation about the supplies. And we pull this data into four plus an energy usage, four main areas that enable your guys to have a view as if they'd interviewed the customer and got feedback on how the devices perform. So the first one we look at is the utilization, and this is really how frequently the supplies are being changed. If that's over 100%, then you know that that customer is burning through far too many supplies on that device. So that's the first indicator and the first conversation starter in terms of, potentially selling them a device with greater capacity. And then we look at the depreciation. You can think of this as the mileage on the clock. As the device gets older, we can say to the customer that they've had value for money from that device. They've sweated it efficiently, and it's now they're now going to feel satisfied that if they change that device, that they've had value for money from that device. Of course, it may even have been a device that you sold them in the first place, and you want to reassure them that they've had value for money out of that device, but there's other compelling reasons why it may be time to change it. So the next area we look at here is the availability. Now, this isn't just whether the machine is online or offline, but underneath this, we're collecting every single time they open the paper trays, every single time they change the supplies or clear a jam, etc. And we build this into an overall picture of how much hassle and frustration that device may be causing their users. And then finally, we look at the cost per page and we highlight the top 20 devices for them so they can see which devices are costing them the most money. And without ever knowing what a HP CP3525N even looks like, I can see just reading these indicators here that the customer, I can say to the customer that the machine is of the right size. They're not burning through the supplies too frequently, but it's depreciated. So they've put a lot of volume through it over the years, and the asset doesn't really owe them anything anymore. But moving on to the availability, we can tell that it's causing their users lots of problems and frustrations, and it's one of their most expensive devices. So if you put those four indicators together, you can construct a very compelling sales argument to go back to the customer and say, look, should you really be buying supplies on that machine today? Or maybe it's time I quote you on a more reliable, newer device that's going to lower your running costs. So really, these are just in a single view here, we've got all of the main data that you need to have conversations with your customer on the phone. So typically what will happen here is that the sales guy that looks after these accounts will come in the morning, and he'll see, before he does anything else, that he's got these 3 sales opportunities here. And these 3 alone will sell more supplies than making 100 phone calls. And we've seen that over and over with many partners that they can very quickly sell these supplies and move on to spending more time prospecting for new business. Okay, so now we're drilling down to look at the specific customers and what supplies they need. As a default, we show 4 weeks worth of forecast, because that's it's a good period of time for the customer to commit to immediately without a lot of further investigation. But we have also a lot of customers, such as schools, that know they've got the budget for a particular term, and that's where we can increase the forecast up to 10 weeks and sell them a larger quantity of supplies. Then they know they've got everything that they need. And so here we can now drill down a little bit more. And on the next screen, what you'll see there is that the system looks a lot like a pre-populated shopping cart. Okay, so we've taken that forecasted data with all of the consumables and the SKUs that are required, and we've pre-populated it as, if you like, a virtual order. Now the customer can also log in and see a similar view to this, but they don't see the same prices and other things that you see here. They see just enough data to validate the fact that they're going to need these supplies, but you're in complete control over the pricing and what it is that you actually propose to the customer that they should buy. And we know that they should buy it because the forecast is telling us that these supplies are going to run out. So there has to be a valid reason why they wouldn't buy those supplies. And I'll come to that in just a moment. But what you can see here is that you've got full control over whether you're selling them original supplies, compatibles, reman, regular capacity, high capacity, etc. And you can see the prices that you last charged them or they last bought at from you, and therefore, if they're not going to buy these supplies, there has to be a quantifiable reason why not, because we know that they're going to run out. So sometimes it could be that they bought it from elsewhere. You may have had a week's holiday and somebody managed to slip in there while you were away. But of course, if you'd sold to them a full month before you went, then you'd be fine. The other reason could be something like funding. Sometimes the customer doesn't have the budget to buy maybe loads of fuses or drums, etc., and they may reset them, but they're going to need the toners. It could also be that they're retiring the device because you've used the data to show them how they can save money buying a newer, more cost-effective device. And it could be that there's a stock shortage in your supply chain if you stock yourself, or in your distributor if you drop ship. But because we are typically forecasting, it gives us the time to do something about these problems. Whereas if we're reacting to a low toner alert and it is going to be needed within the next 1 or 2 days, then that creates a more significant problem. And then often when we take on a customer, we can see that they've got surplus stock on their shelves. And for the first 1 or 2 times that consumable comes into the forecast, they may say that they've got one on the shelf and they're going to take that from stock. But as soon as they're used up, then those orders will come through as well. We wanted to make adding clients to the system as easy as possible. So if you just fill in the details on the screen that you see here, you will receive from the system a branded email to your account manager that contains all of the information that the customer needs to install the DCA. They'll have a download link, and they'll have a software key that ties that customer to you as the operator of the system. And that data can never go into any other instance of the portal or to any other account manager even. It will be fully locked down inside here to you and your customer. So once you have that branded email, you can copy and paste that into an email to your customer. So we're always remaining invisible in the background. And then you can send that email onto your customer. And in over 95% of cases, just downloading the agent, putting in the software key, saying next, etc., is sufficient to get the system up and running. And at the end of the installation, it will offer to discover all of the devices within that subnet, so that you can go back the next day and have a conversation with your customer about which machines you've seen and where you go from there. And we'll typically see the first forecast coming through within 48 hours. And the trending will improve over the coming months to be more and more accurate. It will spot instances where they've suddenly had a big job to do, and that's pulled it forward in the forecast. So it will trap all of that, and it will just get better and better over time as more and more supplies are trended through that particular customer. And then what you're also able to see in the next screen is we're giving you some summarized data to go back to your supply chain and negotiate better rates, or go to particular vendors or suppliers and talk about the trends that are happening within your customer base. So it may be that if a particular manufacturer's market share, if you like, within your accounts is reducing, you might persuade him to give you some special offers, or some other incentives to increase his market share. So you can use this data to really drive your supply chain to maximize your margins and improve your overall efficiency. And it'll give you some idea of the quantity of supplies that you need and the page volumes that are going through those customers in order to have those conversations. On the next screen, you may have noticed that there are some advertising panels on the left-hand side and at the bottom of the screen. And these are fully controllable. You can have a default set of adverts that's displayed on every screen, or you can even do campaigns to show specific adverts for a specific period of time on specific locations. So you can either make that very simple, or you can use it to drive lots and lots of different adverts through the system. Okay, and then finally, you've got full control over the devices that you are monitoring in order to sell supplies. and the devices that you're monitoring that are from a competitor that you want to gather data on to go in and sell against later. So you can see the devices, you can see when they were discovered, and you can even see the historical devices that that may have been removed from the account, but it's still relevant to have that data for future conversations around the type of devices they were using, how much they were costing, and what the appropriate strategy is moving forwards. So that's a brief overview of the system. There's many more features in there that we haven't covered today, like the reporting and some of the other messaging and trending that you can see. But this is really just to give you a taster, if you like, of how many resellers who've used the system over the last few years to really drive greater sales and greater loyalty in their customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. That was amazing. And I know there's so much more to say and see, but we couldn't do it in this short period of time. But we are offering a special one-time situation for our attendees that sign up for a demo today, and we'll show you how to sign up for a demo so that they can really get a good in-depth walk through the system with you, Phil. And then if they subscribe to the tool, let us know that they would like to implement this tool in their business to help them realize their sales and business objectives, we will give them use of this portal free for a solid year. And if you look in Webster's, under the word no-brainer, this would be there, because there's no risk involved here, but you stand the chance of really increasing your sales and your profit and lowering your costs and becoming that trusted advisor and all of those other wonderful things that we talked about earlier. So how can you do that? Immediately after the webinar, we will send you an email thanking you, giving you a link that you can listen to the webinar replay again, but also a link where you can book your demonstration right away. There's only a few slots, as you can see, posted here, and I guarantee you they will fill up quickly. And so you see that link at the bottom. I know Lyria is going to put it into the chat box, so you can just click on it after the webinar is over and immediately go in and just select which day and time you would like to schedule your demonstration. Now, I don't see dates, but I think on the regular calendar you will see the dates, and they're going from this Friday through Monday 10th. So they are soon, and they will fill up quickly. So don't hesitate. Go ahead and book your demonstration today. Agree to utilize this printer automation tool, and we'll let you do so for 1 year for free. And we'll also tell you, give you information about how you can then implement it within your customer environment and how you can make money on it as well. So now's our time to open up for questions. I'm pretty sure that with all that myself and Phil and Tejas has shared with you today, that there are a ton of questions out there. And we'll try to get to as many as possible in the next 10 minutes. But if there are any lingering, we will also provide you with contact information here as well. And you can reach out to either Denise West or Kathleen DeAngelis at these email addresses and at the phone number listed there today. So, Lyria, I'm pretty sure we have some questions.
Just before that, Ava, just a reminder, in your chat window, I did put the link directly to the calendar where you can go right after this session and schedule your free 1-hour demo. So again, just click on that link and it'll take you right to the calendar. If you missed that, of course, you will get it in the email reminder after our session is done. You'll get that later today. Let's see, does anyone have a question? Please feel free to type that in the chat box, a question or a comment. Tejas and Philip, what are some of the typical questions your clients see at this beginning phase? What are some of the things that come up for them?
So I guess one of the questions that we get asked a lot now is around security. because everybody is very nervous about firewalls and what data is being extracted from the organization, etc. So a couple of things that we say about this. Firstly, we're using a very, very secure protocol, same protocol that's used by organizations like NATO between different member states and their armed forces. It's a protocol called XMPP. You can read up on that. But the second really important thing is that we're not collecting any data that identifies anything about the users or the job contents. We are simply collecting the meter readings, the errors, and the supplies levels, etc. So it's first of all, it's completely harmless data, but the way that we're collecting it is also incredibly secure.
And so for that initial startup to get going, let's say if they had a client that had, say, 100 printers in their environment, how quickly, how easy it is to get that up and running?
If they have so if you fill in the new client form, you'll typically get the license back within say for about 4 hours for us to prepare the agent specific to that customer. And then as soon as they install it, it will start automatically discovering the printers in the back end. So within 2 to 3 hours, it will have discovered 100 printers, and it will shuffle it up to the portal and register those devices automatically. And then we really, so the following day we'll be trending the usage, and the day after that, then we should see the first forecast on the dashboard with the first sales opportunity.
Okay, so that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, the analytics on the performance of the devices will be fully formed after 30 days, because we really need to see, you know, the peaks and troughs through the month in order to form a view on how well that device is performing, what its page coverage is like, how reliable it is, etc.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I do see an excellent question here in the dashboard. How would you compare Kanban NPS to other NPS solutions? What are some of the things that are unique?
Well, I would say the main thing that we set out to achieve back in my vendor days, everybody was talking about how the transactional market was going to have to absorb itself into essentially the A3 copier market, and that these guys would have to learn how to sell leasing and cost per page and various other things. And that was nearly 20 years ago. And to be honest, that change has still not happened. There's a little bit of overlap in the middle, but the vast majority of transactional resellers are still looking for ways to add value within their chosen business model without having to move over, if you like, to the other side. So customers also are still incredibly keen on buying transactionally, but they want to be reassured that they're getting value from that, and ways to engage with the customer are incredibly important. So the fact that we can present this data in a very sales orientated format without needing to wade through lists and lists of devices that may not need supplies, really puts the sales guys in the driving seat when they're on the phone making those calls. So they don't have to look around for the opportunities. They're drawn out of the data and presented there for them to deal with straight away. And really, the forecasting is at the heart of this, because it gives our partners much more time to make the sale. And it's going to be a larger sale with better margins and better retention. We found that customers became much less sensitive about the price of the supplies once they trusted the system and once they'd done 1 or 2 orders, because, you know, no customer really has the time to go online and find the best price on one packet of toner. Now, obviously, as a reseller, you have some responsibility to keep your prices at a competitive level, but we've definitely seen that it's far less price sensitive than simply selling supplies in 1s and 2s over the phone, or using other systems that are really geared for service delivery rather than for driving sales.
Okay. And just a moment, I do see a couple of additional questions. And we just have a few minutes left, so I'm going to take 2 of the questions. One of them I think you've already addressed in terms of the ease of implementation. Doesn't sound like that's going to be a huge hurdle to get going. And like you said, it takes a little time to ramp up and discover all the devices. But overall, it's a pretty light touch to get up and going. Here's one final question, and we've talked about it throughout this discussion today, and that's that whole idea of becoming that trusted advisor to your clients and using your tool. Can you talk a little bit about why that is important to finding that greater ROI even within your current customer base? Why is that trusted advisor mindset essential to building that deeper relationship?
Shall I take that one as well?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So at the end of the day, people buy from people. And I know that the internet has done amazing things to, to make buying and selling easier. But at the end of the day, what we've seen with our partners using this system is that they become, incredibly trusted by their customers, because they're not trying to sell them things they don't need. They don't end up with lots of supplies on the shelves that they never use because the machines have died. So we see a great trusting relationship built up between our partners and their customers. And many of them have used, as you saw with one of the first customers I've highlighted, the same account manager has been trusted by that same customer for over 7 years, and they've never felt the need to look outside of the system and put together a tender and go and test the market and various other things. Sure, now and again they come back and say, are we getting the right pricing? And they may do a little bit of price checking, etc. But longevity through that trust relationship has been incredible, to be honest with you.
Excellent points, Philip. Avis, is there anything that you would like to add to that based on your experience of many years in this field?
There's so much I can add to that, Lyria, but I see that we're down to our last minute. So suffice it to say that the more value you can extend to your customers, value that they don't know they need or want or know how to ask for it, the better position you will be in. It will become a situation that they will come to you for a lot of things, not just this one, once you begin to demonstrate this extended value. So my parting comment is to just think about ways that you can become that valued, trusted advisor as a goal number one. Because after that, it's not even about selling products or services. It's about solving problems for your customers and anticipating their needs. So with that, I would like to thank you all for attending today. Don't forget to sign up for your free demonstration and consultation for your 3 years use of this portal. It will change your business. We just know it will. Thank you, Tejas and Phil, for joining us today. Lyria, thank you for your excellent moderation, and wish you all a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.